or this session is a celebration of a network, or rather a community of stakeholders who share a common goal. And it is really a testament of our strength, of our collective efforts. And as we know, each one of our members, they bring unique perspective, expertise, and passion to the table. And we hope to have a very enriching conversation that drives positive change and also gives direction to the upcoming decade in this journey of coordination and collaboration. So before we begin, I want to take this opportunity to extend a heartfelt thanks to all of our members for their unwavering dedication and commitment to the humanitarian action as well as resilience building in the country. And with that, a warm welcome to each and every one of you, and really thank you for joining us on this journey. And as we dive into these discussions and the first session, I would like to invite Mr. Saicom Kennedy, who's Senior Manager Operations with Sphere India and has been part of Sphere India for over last 1 decade. And for today's discussion, he'll be setting the stage and also reflecting on Sphere India's roots, origins, and also the evolution over the years. Over to you, Kennedy, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Nopurs, and a warm greetings to all our members and eminent speakers which we have today. Wouldn't be better to tell the history of the Sphere project and its process in India. So it's more like a Sphere story, how it has started and how we are practicing or implementing that in India. So like first to like we really like to thanks to all our members because of all of your continuous effort, investments, and how we are working in the fields at the times of emergencies and we humanitarian response. We keep on sparing so that we are able to scale up the this promote this Sphere principles and the process standards in India, also in course coordinations with the local CBOs and the networks with our IAG members. I think today we have Subidas from the IAGs also. So like first we start with the Sphere stories. It all started with the this Rwanda genocide in 1994. During that crisis, many of the humanitarian agencies, they come in response to the humanitarian crisis, and after the crisis, like most of the agencies are quite satisfied with their humanitarian work and they are quite happy. But there was this multi-donor evolutions this assessment has done, and in one of that finding, it has come out like because of the actions of the humanitarian agencies, like many people has been died, and like more life can be saved through crisis. So all that started the Sphere stories. After that, and the like-minded organizations, they have come out with this Sphere handbooks, that help us to reflect, like whether we are doing the right actions at the right times in the times of humanitarian actions, how our actions are, complementing to meet the humanitarian charters, the core humanitarian standards, and the protections principle. That's all the book is all about learning from the fields. And like it kept on saying like the Sphere is for all. If you look in the Sphere handbook, it is all by everyone. You will not find any organization's name on that. It is a continuous learning, and the handbook keep on revisions every years. So that's all the journey has started in India. The Sphere India being a national coalition of these humanitarian agencies in India, it initiated as a kind of this country pilot for the Sphere projects in India in 2003 to promote this Sphere principles. I'd rather say the humanitarian charters, the foundation, the 3 foundation chapters, which is in the Sphere handbook. There's the core humanitarian standards, humanitarian charters, and the protection principles and the process and the standard in India. So Sphere India, we gradually involve into a collaborative process and nexus of this diverse stakeholders of humanitarian, DRR, climate, risk management, development, peace building actors in India as a platform for interagency process to promote this quality and accountabilities in India through our humanitarian actions, and how how through our actions the right to life of the dignities of the people affected by the crisis or the disaster are dignified, and the diversities of these actors and the outreach also include representatives from government, private sectors, UN, international NGOs, national NGOs, local NGOs, CBOs, professional associations, academic institutions, and media and individuals. So I think with this, I like to set up the today discussions. Like we already have such an eminent speakers who are mentors to these networks. Network then be able to tell the history of Sphere India and how we are moving ahead forward. So on this quality to accountability initiative through collective initiative, and how our actions will be able to dignify the right to life of the peoples, and rather than from charity to right-based approach, and recognizing the people in centric, the community affected by the disasters are the your right holders. Yeah. Thank you, Nopuri. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Kennedy sir, and especially for elaborating the foundation and principles of the Sphere project and how this journey started. And we are so glad that we have people who were steering these processes for the genesis of Sphere project in India. And going forward, we'll also be hearing from them. So with that, I'll move to our next speaker. We have Professor Vinod Kumar Sharma with us, who's Vice Chairman of Sikkim State Disaster Management Authority and also a Senior Professor and Disaster Management Consultant with Indian Institute of Public Administration. Professor Sharma, we are grateful to have your guidance and support on this journey, and we would like to invite you to speak about this journey with Sphere India and also share your insights and your vision for Sphere India as a network.
Thank you, Nupurji and Mr. Kennedy. I think Vikrant will join, soon. I can see, some of my very learned colleagues, Prustiji, Mr. Tushar Das, Madam Meghna ji, Anirudh Day, very close friend, since last few decades, and other partners of Sphere India. I think not only we should congratulate Sphere on this day, but I think it's a very, very auspicious day for all of us, that a very humble beginning was made by our friend, Prustiji. And I remember that, how he propagated, this idea of humanitarian assistance when he was working with the NGO sector, and with his own experiences, in this country and in Bangladesh, in other countries. And he discussed it, with us. And I am very happy to mention that those days in the NCDM, Shri Anil Sinha, he was the joint secretary in the ministry. And we discuss it that I think there should be some formalized way of humanitarian assistance. And I think this handbook, which has come and which is being propagated, I think we should study it, and we should have a sort of so in NCDM we organize a sort of discussion on this book. Mihir Bhatt, who was a very close friend, and he was also a very good champion of the Sphere idea. And then we discuss with different NGOs like Seeds and other partners, and they find it a very good concept. I mean, and I remember 21 years back when myself, because I am witness to that event, and I am, it's such a, wonderful event. Prustiji, I think you also, you organized that first meeting in which Anil Sinha ji was there, Seeds was there, and all of us, we had long discussion. And there were many questions also, to the people that what kind of humanitarian assistance and what kind of. So I think, you see how much, how quickly time has passed in 21 years. So I think it's a definitely the promoters, the people, like my these friends who are assembled today. And then I could see the contribution of Mr. Vikrant Mahajan, who has taken it, to a different level, I should say. And I should compliment, I should, wholeheartedly thank him that, and again, I will say that Prustiji, it was the right choice that you selected a good person, a very committed person, I should say. And then he made a very committed team. So it's a very small team of sphere, but each one is, working so hard and working with the entire country, I should say. They are known actually now in the area of humanitarian assistance, and this is created by this group. So we should all compliment, this group that they are so impartial, they are so, committed, they are so. I mean, they have all characteristics, which are really required for this kind of organization. So I congratulate, I compliment, the CEO of this organization, to each and every member, because you are the actually the real, foundation is made. It was very solid foundation which was made by few people. But I think today, where you are taking to this organization, this is very important, and I'm very impressed, the way you guys are working, and the commitment you are having for the organization and for the subject. Now I have come to 21. 21 is a very auspicious number actually. 21, you might have been knowing that any big thing which has happened in the world or in India, this is having 21. And, it's a very auspicious number. I think I remember that Mrs. Brundtland, Prime Minister of Norway, she gave a report on World Commission on Environment and Development, and there were 21 points. Mrs. Gandhi, she was talking a 21 point. So 21 agenda, I think we should also today make a 21-point agenda for the organization, and should set the direction, for this, and how not only with the collaboration with our NDMA, which you are already having, NIDM, etc., but how you can take it, to other countries, Asian countries. So this should be our point of discussion today, that now you have very dynamic people, who are with us, Anirudh Day and all, they are then they have good contacts, in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, and at least in neighboring countries, how we can show our presence and how we can work with them on this issue. I think this is very important. Then one more thing, and I would like to listen, Prustuji and his idea on this. I couldn't see Anil Sinhaji, but he will certainly be joining in some time. I would like to hear Anil Sinhaji also on this. My point is that I think there is real need of Indianization of the humanitarian assistance. The booklet, when it was prepared, we always said that it should be adapted as per Indian conditions. And there were, many views of the experts, and we were listening to them. Some are very, very, because we should be very practical about it. I know that Honorable Prime Minister is always talking that we should not be having this, the British legacy or that mindset. I think now Indianization of this kind of program is really needed. And when I am saying Indianization, it means, we have, many things which are being started by Government of India. There are many programs for farmers. There are many programs, for poor people. There is many programs for. So I think all this is all humanitarian assistance, and we should recognize that. And unless and until we recognize the efforts of government, that how 80 crore people, will be getting food, and how we start from the this COVID days, this government, took this country, from this big disaster to this to fifth become biggest economy. I think our role will be sort of incomplete. And Sinaji, I greet you on this day, and I remember that you had made a great contribution, because in government normally people don't understand and don't really appreciate this kind of thing. But I remember that whenever we discuss with you about the humanitarian assistance, about setting the standard, about, you were very positive, and you always mentioned it. Even in the high power committee you mentioned that, I think sphere is not separate. I think we should mention it in the high powered committee, and you make it happen, that what kind of assistance and what kind of relief actually is really needed in disaster management. Sir, today I am saying that on 21st day, we should have a Agenda 21 of this sphere. And in this Agenda 21, we should make few points. And that those points is that, how we can, link the existing government, facilities which is being created, for assistance of different poor people, for in disaster management, in drought situation, and that should be linked with the sphere program. And then we should set our own standard. You always advocated about the adaptation of this booklet, and that adaptation is not real adaptation actually, because our Indian conditions are, altogether different, and our norms should be like this, so that it's become more practical, so that it can be accepted by different states, so that it is. So I think a very overhauling, sort of study, and involving some of the expert who can study, all different states and their existing system, and sphere is become more meaningful in coming years. Because, sir, with the climate change, I think we should agree, we all will agree, that frequency of these disasters will increase. It is the poor people who are at really margin, they may be marginal farmers, they will suffer. So I think there should be some arrangements, and we should assist Government of India, we should assist states, that how sphere can be useful, or sphere norms can be useful to those states. So, sir, this is one point. Second point is that I should appreciate, the effort of sphere in capacity building. They have done marvelous job, because when they started, I remember, and Sinanji, I told you that the first training program for NGOs was done by the NCDM, and in 95, when Prustiji was in CARE, and CARE asked us to do the program for NGOs. And in NGO, we find that they have no idea of project formulation. They have no idea. everybody, just, they know little bit of relief and little bit of their local issues, but their capacity was very limited. But thanks to Sphere India, that they did marvelous job in these 20 years. And in 2 decades, I think they have done, I don't remember how many programs, but they did number of programs and with different states, and helped them in capacity building, in project formulation, in sending, because they have very little idea about that. And now they have joined by people like Anuruddha and all these people who are having great experience in these areas. So maybe a very set program, for the NGOs, and so this can be a one big agenda for Sphere, that how they assist the SDMAs, how they assist the DDMAs, and how they can get funding actually from maybe from government, or maybe from international organization, or maybe because funding is their main concern. They get, they are doing a lot, but I think this limitation, and we should discuss this today, that how, influential people like Anil Sinhaji and others, how they can assist them, how they can help this organization in this thing. And lastly, I will say that now we should identify that in coming 10 years, because the agenda should be very clear, for another 10 years, that what will be the focus and how this organization will work in India as well as in neighboring countries, because I think now people are looking towards India. And same is NGOs. And I have been to all this area, and I think my all friends, they have been to nearby our friendly countries. They are looking towards India actually for this kind of assistance and their capacity building. So how Sphere can play a very crucial role in it, we can touch this subject as well. I once again compliment, congratulate, and each one of you, is a, I should say, a great person. I salute you for your contribution to disaster risk reduction, and particularly in humanitarian assistance. Thank you very much that you invited me today. अगर आप मुझे आज ना भी बुलाते तो भी मैं जरूर आता. मेरा मन कर रहा था कि मैं स्फीयर के ऑफिस ही में पहुंच जाऊं, चूंकि आई एम ओनली 1 किलोमीटर अवे फ्रॉम हियर. But then I thought that let me sit here and control my emotions. So thank you very much for inviting me today in this great function. Over to you, Nupur.
Thank you so much, sir. And we are always happy to host you in our office, and we welcome you even today. We can post lunch. Maybe we can celebrate together. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and also elaborating on how the idea, or the genesis of Sphere project in India, how it will evolve. And we're really honored to have your presence along with Anil Sinha sir, Prushti sir, who've been pioneer in the sector in the country, and who've been associated with us for over 2 decades, and also continue to mentor us and guide us in this journey. And your point on creating a 21-point agenda from today's discussions and is most welcome. And as some of you may know, that we're also doing an evaluation exercise where we are doing an impact assessment of Sphere India's work in the last 2 decades. So with that, with the outcome from that evaluation report or impact assessment, and the direction and visioning that you are providing us with today, I think we'll be able to come out with a 21-point agenda for the next decade. As we know, the coming few years are very critical, with a lot of global policy frameworks also converging in 2030. So it will be good for us as a network to set a visioning for the next 10 years. And that is something we'll definitely be taking forward. And in terms of Indianization of standards, while we are trying to work with different different stakeholders, for example, different ministries for at least the core life-saving sectors like wash, education, shelter, health, and protection to kind of develop a contextualized handbook for India, which not only works for emergency preparedness and response, but also has elements of resilience building, including DRR and climate change adaptation in it. So while we continue to do that work and also uh, going in the direction that you've guided us towards, I would like to invite Mr. N.M. Prushti, sir, who's it is an honor to have him with us. I don't think he bears an introduction. But he is wearing many hats today, along with Mentacom Director at Center for Development and Disaster Management Services. So, as one of the founding stakeholders and also a constant guiding force throughout Sphere India's journey, so we're looking forward to hearing your insights on tracing the roots of Sphere India, reflecting on the journey, and also maybe sharing your insight and perspectives on some of the directional inputs that have come from Professor Vinod Kumar Sharma, sir.
Thank you, Nupur. Good morning, everybody. It's a very wonderful day. I'm able to see my co-travelers, good friends, and teachers indeed in many ways. Professor Sharma, Mr. Anil Sinha, and this is an occasion to remember my.
Not audible. Not audible clearly.
Is it better now?
Not much.
Is it better? Is it better?
मेरे ख्याल से इसको
I think a volume is a little less, so maybe we can increase our volume to hear Prushti sir well.
थोड़ा सा इंक्रीज कर लीजिए, बट आई कैन हियर यू.
Increase the volume also. So what I said, it's a very memorable day and very emotional moment for me, especially this 21 years of journey. Rather, it's 25 years journey. One second, let me set my. Yeah. So I'm able to remember my friends and see some of my friends, co-travelers and teachers, Dr. Professor Sharma and Mr. Anil Sinha, and it is definitely important to remember some of our co-travelers and co-creators of this idea of humanitarian coalition. It's very necessary that we remember our friend Professor Vinod Menon, Professor Santosh Kumar, Mr. Chako, Sudhanshu, Mr. Matthew, and many more, and Mihir Bhai, not the least, and many such people who really joined the effort to.
Prushti sir, can you remove the headphone? Detach the pin.
Is it better?
I think it would be audible then.
Is it better now?
No, but you increase the volume of your speaker.
I think
Volume.
I think we can speak, increase the volume of our respective systems. Then Prushti sir is audible.
Is it better now?
It is better now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Much better, sir. Much better.
Much better. Yeah.
I removed the headphone and now I'll be speaking like this. This is a moment to remember the co-travelers and co-creators rather of this unique humanitarian coalition called Sphere India. I'll like to touch some emotional moments of this journey, 25 years journey that you know the I call this Sphere India as an institution. It's the institution of the new millennium because it was born in the new millennium and it is making a difference and probably it is the one of the largest coalition on any such work that has been set up anywhere in the world. And the route goes to the idea of sphere. So I'll touch upon the idea of sphere a bit. Kennedy has mentioned to some extent. It happened, the sphere, the idea of sphere was born out of the humanitarian response to the Rwandan genocide. It happened in the 90s, where within a span of 100 days, nearly about 1 million people perished. The humanitarian assistance poured in, but the subsequent evaluation indicated that whatever the humanitarian organizations did, it's not good enough. We could have done it much better to save lives. So that is the spirit with which some of these humanitarian organizations came together in Geneva and decided to set up a protocol to create humanitarian standards. So the first document was prepared, and that is the time when I had just come out of the business school. At the mid-career, I decided to join the business school to learn the humanitarian, to learn the international business, international economics, international relation. That I decided, because that is the time, the 90s, you will remember that our all political blocks were collapsing and economic groupings were emerging. And then there was a fear that this economic grouping should not lead to reintroduction of the colonial era. So that fear, so there are a lot of people, a lot of discussion, a lot of writings were happening. So that is the time I decided that I should go back to the school to refresh my understanding about this international scenario. And I just finished my course with Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, and that is the time I got an opportunity to work into the development sector, coming back to the development sector, and I worked for SIDA, and then that SIDA work led me to join CARE, and CARE was those days the largest humanitarian organization in the world, people say. And that is the time I took the responsibility of managing the food aid, and food aid program was the largest program in India of CARE. And because of my background, the CARE nominated me to the Sphere Committee of writing these standards. And so I joined the Sphere standard writing team as the contributor to the food aid segment. And that is the time I was beginning to discuss, and something happened in India. That 99 super cyclone that happened, and the whole the humanitarian ecosystem, the disaster management ecosystem got severely challenged. Our system, processes, and abilities, everything was at test, and we really caught on the pants down kind of thing. And that is the time when we are beginning to respond. I remember that organizations, leaders, they used to organizations and sorry. They used to travel to Odisha, and everybody used to go and collect and see something and come back and trying to develop their program for assistance. And I was seeing and I was feeling that we are not able to respond to the needs of people, because in a humanitarian crisis, what is needed, that the worst affected area, worst affected people should be provided with assistance at the fastest possible manner, and that was not happening. And in the process of diagnosis, why it is not happening, I found that probably the understanding the situation, getting information about the situation is lacking. So I see people, there are many organizations, many leaders are going, they're coming with various information and various ideas, various perception, how these things can be used by others, so we do not keep repeating the things day in, day out. So I tried to request our state office that can you talk to some of these large organizations, NGOs, and the UN organization to have a daily meeting kind of thing. And then I remember that is the time UNICEF Odisha office came forward to offer that space. They said that yes, we will host. And the meeting used to start early in the morning at 6 o'clock. And the meeting became a very useful meeting for many of these humanitarian actors. And seeing the effectiveness of this program, the government, the Chief Minister office decided that the Secretary to the Chief Minister, Principal Secretary to the Chief Minister will attend that meeting. The Special Relief Commissioner to the government will attend that meeting. And the relationship started that big NGOs, small NGOs, local NGOs, government and UN organizations, they came together and started discussing. So that created a kind of impression that something together can be done, so that we do not reinvent the wheel. We share information, share action, share strategies, share interventions, ideas about intervention, and come together to respond to a crisis. And that was a kind of a proof of concept that happened in Odisha. And with that understanding, and when I was again tasked to write the standards for the humanitarian response in the food, so the group discussions with all the thematic experts were there, and I raised a very fundamental point. I said that the Spears standard first handbook is already prepared, and but how many people in this country know about, in this world, know about this unique exercise? And I said, let me give you an example of India. India is a country which witnesses all kinds of disaster. You name any kinds of disaster, it has witnessed, or it is happening in some part of the country or other. And you name any humanitarian organization in the world, most of them are present in India in some form or other. All the UN outfits are also there in the country. And India is a welfare state. The country government is also very hugely committed to support any humanitarian response to the humanitarian crisis. So how many people in India, how many actors in India knows about this thing? So that is the time it was decided that yes, it is true. It is actually the fact that we have. In fact, I mentioned. I said that we have been writing the standard here, and let me tell you that in India, I know there is only one handbook in the shelf of the humanitarian manager in care office, and there is another book in another organization. Probably whole of the country there will be 3-4 such books will be available, and only 3-4 people are knowing it. Why it is not getting disseminated? Why it is not putting into practice? Because what happened that the holder of this document, they used to think that I have got such a unique document. If I pass it on to people, if I start sharing, then my value will get lost. I remember those days, the training, spear training, the cost of a trainer used to be so huge. I remember the first spear trainer we hired from UK, and the entire bank balance of spear was spent in paying the fees of the trainer from England. So that was the case those days. So my appeal to Spear Project Geneva that whatever we do, we bring the idea of dissemination in a big way, and it should be put into practice in the country where the crisis take place. And the humanitarian organizations must know, and they should be sensitized, aware, and be knowledgeable in using the document while they perform their duties. And therefore the pilot project started. India was considered as one pilot, and then we started discussing that how this in India this humanitarian standards and collective work will commence. And that is the time I remember I met Mr. Anil Sinha, and those days Mr. Sinha was the High Power Committee was working on the setting the norms that how the country government will like to address the humanitarian crisis and all that. I remember in my first meeting, he introduced me to a local NGO. And today, unfortunately, I'm not seeing Dr. Bhanu here. And he said that you meet this and let us look at that there are organizations like Dr. Bhanu's organization, PGBS, who works with the community in crisis. And we should get more and more such organizations into the kind of combined action you are talking. So that was the beginning of my lessons on localization. So thank you, Mr. Sinha, for really planting that idea of localization. As today the whole world is talking of localization, and then we started discussing. Professor Sharma made significant contribution, and it was so fortunate. Whoever we were touching about testing the idea of coming together, everybody was supportive. Professor Menon was very supportive. Santosh Kumar was working in the World Bank. He said that this is the action that is very much needed, and the international financing will be very supportive of this idea and all that. So this encouragement led to formation of this coalition. Then idea came. Then the question came that how this idea will be materialized. Many suggestions came that organizations came said that we'll host it, we'll do it. The other organization, but then I say if it goes to one organization, it becomes that organization's property. But how it becomes the nation's property, how it becomes the humanitarian community's property. So that's then idea of building a coalition came. And a lot of people was very skeptical that how can organizations have different mandate, different country origin, different culture, different priorities, different strategies, how they will work with the other. Because like this NGOs, humanitarian organizations also they have the severe competitions among themselves globally and also nationally and locally. So then we said that we'll create a cooperative, collaborative platform, and the whole platform design was initiated and all that. It took quite long, 5 years, and the Spear started as a informal platform from 99 2000 until I think till it was registered, and that is the time the country was also undergoing tremendous change in terms of bringing law, process, legislation, rules, and all that. While we are formalizing our process of creating a inclusive platform, coalition, humanitarian coalition, we also started making contribution to the formation of the Disaster Management Act. And while all these things were happening, one interesting thing happened. I must mention that. This was again with Mr. Sinha. We are discussing among the NGO actors, and in Spear Geneva, even UN was not a part in those days. Only few NGOs, and then discussion that all organizations should come together. They're very skeptical that it is not easy to bring all these organizations, and why the UN organizations should come to work with NGOs. But in India, we said that since our common agenda is the responding to the humanitarian crisis, and this fits into all the organization's agenda. Around this agenda, we'll come together, and all UN organizations, international organizations, national organizations, local organizations, we came together, and that is the time. I remember one presentation, one discussion was arranged, and I requested Mr. Sinha. He was the government Central Relief Commissioner those days. I think he was Relief Commissioner or Joint Relief Commissioner, something he was there, and he appreciated the idea and he came and attended. And that is the meeting where we made a presentation and we say that whatever all these international, national and local organizations bring together in a humanitarian crisis, if all these resources are put together, both in terms of money, in terms of items, in terms of human resource, in terms of ideas, all this put together, it will be a fraction of what the government puts in, because the government budget in a responding to humanitarian crisis is so huge, and it is government priority. And that is the time Mr. Sinha said, this is this is something very unique, that NGOs are talking about government becoming partner. Then he said, I'll do my best. And I remember he did not get so much of support within the system, but he could convince the then Home Secretary, and there is an order issued that government will endorse the idea of SPEAR, and on behalf of the government, NIDM will be a part of the SPEAR movement. And that the journey started, and then this became a kind of an example for the whole SPEAR initiative worldwide. I remember because of this Indian initiative of bringing collaborative process, the SPEAR Geneva, they were also considering to invite SPEAR to be present in the SPEAR Geneva board, and that is the time discussion was taking place. I remember I went to appear in the global board because they were considering the SPEAR India's membership, and the board finally they decided that they will not allow SPEAR India to become a member. Then I tried to find out why. They said that because SPEAR India is working with the government, and we make government accountable. But I said that to make government accountable, you must work with the government. That is the way you can make government accountable. And they did not approve our membership to the board. But after a few years, again they invited us, and we joined the board. And today, making government a partner in this collaborative humanitarian action space in humanitarian ecosystem as becoming a model, and a SPEAR framework, SPEAR India template is being used, and some of the initiatives in the neighboring countries have also been have initiated. So this is, I'll say that this is the contribution of SPEAR India. And today, SPEAR India has moved not only from a small coalition of few organizations at the national level, it has moved far wide. Almost every state we have got the structure like SPEAR, which is called interagency groups, and even some of the districts we have got, we have made very sincere and serious recommendations to the Government of India when they were drafting the Disaster Management Act. I remember 150 suggestions were made to the government while the act was being drafted, and several of our suggestions have been incorporated, and that was a pleasure, that is a sense of happiness that we could make some contribution to the public system, and that the whole journey began. And I remember when the NDMA was set up, the first few half a dozen workshops were organized to make the NDMA body, the members, there were 9 members, the people within the system to know what is humanitarian response, what is humanitarian action. So reference material was only from the SPEAR handbook, because that was the only document which was providing the comprehensive information about that what is a crisis, how it is to be handled, what are the basic issues, what are the core issues, what are the kind of sensitivities, what are the kind of do's and don'ts. All those things you find in the SPEAR handbook. And that was being used, and it was every meeting I was going, and I used to feel that, oh, this is the power of SPEAR. This is the kind of knowledge base of SPEAR that is making a difference in our country. And then we came much closer. We worked with NDMA, we worked with SDMA and all that. Mr. Sinha was the vice chairman of the Bihar Disaster Management Authority, I remember when the discussion was going on that we will create a district disaster management plan. Mr. Sinha was so vocal and so determined that the model plan will be done, and it will be done in collaboration, in partnership with Sphere and Sphere India. And we spent significant time, and that time the member of the NDMA was also very supportive, and the first model plan on the district disaster management plan was made, and that became a template or became a benchmark for the other DDMPs in the country. So these are some of our contributions. I will not take more time. I think I have over exceeded my limited time. I'll now come to some of the suggestions that I'll like to offer. Uh, I think the idea of 21 point agenda is important, I'd like to point out few things which may appear within the 21 or not, may not, but that is for the audience, for to consider and feel what is important. Number one is that it is time we should think about creating our next 10 year strategy. I'm very happy to hear that there is some evaluation is going on. Sometime back, a year back, someone was telling me that evaluation is going on, but I do not know anything. I think it would be good that evaluation in the process, the, 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 the ideas that is being talked are also a factor. So first point is that we should create our next 10-year strategic plan. Now, second point is that climate change is becoming a reality, and our Sphere India's role in climate change adaptation should be much more vigorous and much more strategic and much more localized. So how this has to be done, this should be the top priority area. Then the next is that I'm happy that I'm happy that the development organizations have also come in, because development activities and disaster incidents are so closely related. And I remember the High Power Committee recommendation, Mr. Anil Sinha's repeated statement that if you do not handle your development activities, you compound the disasters, you create more disasters. So in Hindi, he used to tell it very beautifully, which I am not able to tell. He will be definitely making that statement. And so development action and disaster management action must get aligned in true sense and put into practice. So that should be the priority 2 of Sphere India. Then the Professor Sharma has mentioned about capacity building. The Sphere India has done extensive work on capacity building. I am able to envision that the Sphere Academy should emerge as a benchmark institution in course of time, and should set standards of training, capacity building of organizations and individuals that are involved in the humanitarian actions, because the impact comes out of the action on the ground. So frontline worker and frontline organizations are key to successful humanitarian actions, and their capacity is important. Its capacity doesn't mean only technical capacity in terms of organization development, capacity in terms of their sustainability, capacity in terms of their ability to negotiate, ability to create, to build on ideas, into action. That, and next priority, I'll point out that technology is now becoming a game changer, and this technology can be used mostly in very, very concrete manner. It can be used in building our capacity building initiatives. And so technology aided capacity building activities should be the cornerstone of the Sphere India Academy. And the localization, the whole world is talking about localization. Some of our member organizations have very sincerely attempted localization, But the localization we should not take in terms in a very legalistic manner. Yes, there are organizations who are becoming, as per law, Indian law, they are local organizations. They are good. They are also important. They are important actors. They are important players in our collaborative effort. But the localization, true meaning of localization is where is the soul? The organization, if the soul of the organization is local, they will be there, the true local organization, and their capacity, their ability to respond to ability to deal with the disaster should be built up, and their connect their connect with the community is much deeper, much stronger, and much viable, much powerful. Uh, so this is my next suggestion. Uh, then the demonstration of good governance is another point which I like, because we have 21-year-old organization, and when we are talking about building local organization, supporting local organization, and creating a kind of a good governance scenario, because today is the time that compliance is important. We have to work within the framework of laws, policies of the government, of policies of the country. So therefore, it is necessary that we stay very robust. And this support, how can come from Spear India kind of organization? Then, uh, then we dive deep and we spread wide. This will be my suggestion, that whatever we do, we should go deeper, and we create benchmarks, and we should not at the cost of spreading, because we have to really humanitarian action. These collaborative efforts should go to each state, each block of this country. So how that can be strategized, and that cannot happen by one organization, that how that can be strategized through our networks, through our IAGs and our district IAGs, and bringing people together. This will be very important, so that we need to apply our mind. The last but not least, the point is that volunteering. Today we have volunteering is the core, that volunteer action in the community. There will be this, we have got, we have not been audible. I thought I am audible.
No,
Anyway,
I think it's okay, sir. Yes.
so the volunteer action is important, and today the organizations are promoting volunteer action. Community level, there are volunteers are also emerging. How that we create a strong, capable, responsible volunteering instrument. There is no clarity as yet. There are government programs, there are institutional programs, there are efforts. There are corporates are also now coming out with the volunteering initiative. Recently, I was attending a CSR program where the power of one was very hugely discussed, and the people I could feel that the power of one is really power of infinity. So therefore, the volunteering effort should be one agenda of Spear India. And lastly, that if we want to build capacity, we must build capacity of uh, building ideas, building on ideas to create programs. And these good programs will be able to get money for the organization, and money will help the organization to survive and remain, become viable and sustainable. So that's my suggestion, and I am sure that Spear India will attain its height from time to time, and it will grow much beyond that what we had expected. It is growing. It is giving very positive signals, and I'm happy with the way it is happening, and that's why in many forums I have said that we have come to an irreversible stage. No one can really kill this institution, because this has survived, and this is an adult. This has fought the test of survival in those 2 decades, and today we are 21-year-old, and will survive. Not only survive, we will also make others survive and make the humanitarian ecosystem in India as a model for the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing the rich origin and journey of Sphere India and also sharing your insights on the visioning for the upcoming decade and what should we be prioritizing as a coalition. So we're really truly grateful for your invaluable contribution and role in sustaining this remarkable idea and platform over the years. And it's been an honor for us to be part of this platform and have the opportunity to contribute to the sector, sir. So thank you for all your support and guidance in this journey. So moving forward, we're delighted to welcome Shri Anil Kumar Sinhaji. A lot, Pushti sir and Professor Vinod Sharma, they've elaborated on how he was a core stakeholder in this whole journey and the genesis of this idea. So, Shri Anil Kumar Sinha, former Vice Chairperson of BSTMA, and so with your extensive experience of working with government entities, both at national and subnational levels, we would like to hear from you about sustaining collaboration and coordination with government, and also if you can share some insights about your experience and also your set expectations for Sphere India, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nupur. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because initially there was some problem connecting, so I was getting a bit worried about the state of technology. I'm very happy, to join this 21st Sphere India Day with some very eminent colleagues, uh, Professor V.K. Sharma ji, Rusti ji. Thanks to Sphere, thanks to Vikrant, thanks to all colleagues for having invited me. I'm very happy once again to join this deliberation or recollection and then projecting, our vision and thinking for the next 20 years, you see. You have completed 20 years, so I think we should also look at next 20 years. And fortunately, that next 20 years also coincides with big milestone for India, more or less. You see, when we'll be completing 100 years of our independence. Now, the theme which I saw is lessons learned uh, from 2 decades. I think it's very good. It is something which would hold key to a lot of things which we are going to do. Uh, you know, uh, because I have always held that learning lessons in life in general and learning lessons, especially in the sector of disasters and disaster management, is something very, very crucial, you see. And one of the first lessons which I learned, I have often shared that experience. I'll not share the whole experience, but just the gist of it, that when you talk of going to the common man, because ultimately we are all working for the common man, you see, the citizen of India out there, we are all privileged in many ways. So I'm not in a way including. So when you are talking of the common man, the citizen out there, then demystification, simplification is very important. And that also we must see in the context of the lessons learned. But before I move on, I'm very happy to note that, Sphere in these 20 years has been at the forefront of disaster response all over India, even beyond India, in all these states, in all kinds of disasters, in all kinds of situations, be it the worst in the history that COVID, has been there also, and also in the process of overall resilience building, you see, which is very, very important. I think it has really proved itself and come out as a dynamic platform in terms of collaboration, in terms of innovations, in terms of some good or maybe best or maybe good practices, as we want to call it. But moving on to the second point, you know, I just want to recall 2 things. One is I was struck by the statement of Secretary General of United Nations recently. I saw it, I think, on the site of UNDRR that Mr. Guterres said that the era of of global warming is over, you see. We have been talking of global warming for last 30 years or so at least. And so one would have expected that, okay, if this era is over, there would be some relief, there would be some better era is starting. But his next sentence is very alarming, where he says, the era of global boiling has started, you see. No, while warming is over, but it is a much grimmer and serious and kind of scenario, which in his view, and his view means the view of the United Nations, is emerging, and that is global boiling. So that sets the scene at least for 20 years. It sets the scene for many more years, many more decades, but let us see at least for 20 years. That is one thing which is very, very worrying if it is so, and if we are not able to find solutions to that, you see. The second is, I like to recall in terms of lessons learned, the recent crash of a Japanese airlines, you see, Japanese flight, and where I think maybe nearly 200 people, passengers were there.
Yes,
It
sir.
crashed, and before the whole aeroplane got engulfed into flames and fire, serious fire, you see, each one of those passengers came out, safely. I think this has tremendous lessons for us. It may be, I'm referring to civil aviation sector, their flight, but I think it has the answers to many questions which we may be seeking, you see, as to how it happened, why it happened. Can it also happen in other countries? Can it happen in our India, you see? That a flight crashes, a plane crashes, and then each and every one. And what little, I could gather from a description of this was that each and every passenger followed the word of the crew, air hostesses and others, to the religiously. No one bothered about their personal luggage, their even hand baggage, because they were not allowed in this kind of situation. And each one of them literally followed, and that was the result that, each and every precious life has been, you know, saved, you see. Now, that speaks of culture, that speaks of discipline, that speaks as to what is the communication, between those who are in charge of response in a disaster situation and those who are affected by it, those who are likely to be victims. I think this is something which we need to ponder and recount and review and analyze again and again. I think this is something rare and extraordinary. I have not found this kind of a situation. That is why on one side, Secretary General, who is painting a very, very serious and grim picture. On the other side, tremendous hope which comes from, airline crashing can be one of the worst disasters, you see. Within seconds, it doesn't take minutes, the lives are gone, they are extinguished. Even if they are saved, then the whole process of, getting out, everyone is is secured by the belt, etc., etc. I'm not going to the details, but I think that gives tremendous hope. That is why I thought, let me talk of these two things together, and somewhere we need to find in this kind of a scenario which is emerging, there are hopefully there are, solutions are there, you see. Now, one thing which I want to point out is that, there are emerging challenges, you see. There are changing context. The context is changing very fast, and therefore the challenges are also new. We have seen during COVID, which I mentioned, the scenario of multiple disasters, you see, you know, uh, and complex disasters coming together. And we saw that. I'm not again elaborating, but I think on one side, in the locality where I am living, you see, COVID was being enforced, COVID protocols are being enforced, which required that, you remain inside. But at the same time, if if I may recall, May, June of 2020, Delhi shook several times, 3, 4 times. So there was tremendous concern amongst the residents what to do if there was a serious earthquake. And I saw youngsters, very well educated. This is kind of an upside, if I may say, up and locality. So the youngsters are all maybe much better educated than what I have been, you see. But the ladies, young ladies, girls also worried, what are we going to do if both the things have to be followed? COVID is already there, and if they're shaking, then are you inside or you got to go outside? And there were no immediate answers, at least not from the sources, the government sources or the local sources or district sources, etc., etc. Now, coming to, COVID, you see, again, lessons, because you have talked of lessons, which I find very important. It's very important to review COVID because that has been one of the worst in human history which we have followed. I'm not going through the listing of the lessons, but I'm just pointing out, highlighting this aspect. You see, like Zoom. I mean, today we are able to do this, good part as well as bad part. Good that, we didn't have to travel and sitting at home, we are able to see each other. Bad part, I'm not able to shake hand and hug people, you see. And like Professor Vinod Sharma, I would have also expected that, I go somewhere and meet people. That's an entirely different scenario altogether. That's a different interaction. So, but then another positive part was the health sector. We have learned so much about the health sector and related sectors, etc., etc. You see. Now, in this context, I'm not aware of the handbook, how recent it is. I know that there's a handbook, but I'm not aware somehow if it is very, very recent or the handbook which came out, some time back, you see. But congratulations to Sphere, for all that Prustiji has recounted with his, 20 years of sphere experience and lifetime experience, with all that Professor V.K. Sharma has recounted. And thanks to both of them for referring to whatever humble contribution I've been able to make. I think, they, of course, both of them have had very leading roles, inspiring roles to play in this whole story. But now, at the end of, 30, 40 years of my work at the all levels practically, one thing which worries me is that if I quickly go through whether it is SFDRR or our national policy or our national plan, I think at the core there is that, make disasters everyone's business, you see. But is disasters everyone's business? I'm doubtful. And I gave you an example of COVID that even in an up and kind of a locality, people had not really heard from the authorized sources or the other sources also. I mean, as to what to do, how to deal, with that kind of a situation, you see. So I think one thing which worries me, are we able to make disasters everyone's business? Because it is everyone's business. And if we look at, the lack of communication, which I'm pointing out, the kind of disconnect which unfortunately is there. This is no criticism in whatever way of what the government is doing or the state government is doing. I think we have been part of that. And I think in those positions, we have done our best, honestly, sincerely, and our colleagues who are there, they are doing their best. And there are examples of that. The kind of initiatives which are being taken, I'll refer to them, they are there. So there is no doubt on the kind of stellar work which is being done, sphere included, and the government, other agencies, state government, SDMAs, NDMA, etc., etc. Yet I find there is a disconnect. This is my feeling, and I'm unable to convince myself that there is no disconnect. You see, that is my. People can differ, but then this has been my take, and that is my focus also. Are we able to reach the common man? Are we able to reach the citizens? Because when millions of migrant workers, that is story unfolded during COVID, I think that was also an example that despite whatever government was doing, yet in that kind of a situation, and no disaster will ever come with a lot of notice. After you get 72 hours notice in cyclone, maybe some more in drought, maybe some more in some epidemic, etc., etc., but not more than that, you see. So, you see, I think that again pointed out that, you see, so I think that's very, very important. To the extent sphere has been able to provide the interface between government on one side, because Nupur told me that please relate it to the government also. Yes, the central government and the state government and the local governments, I would say, let us focus on that also. The district administration, the panchayats, the municipalities, which have played tremendous role during COVID, and every disaster, you see. I think to the extent sphere has been able to come up quickly with their response and provide frameworks and provide, other mechanisms of connecting with large number of societal responses, in terms of NGOs, INGOs, self-help groups, etc., on one side, and the government. I think it is tremendous. I think hats off to the way is where idea came, and it was led initially by Prestigi and whole team, so many people, of course, and then Vikrant and his whole team, all the youngsters who are there. I'm so very pleased to see. I think that has been great, you see. But then we need to build, you see. Now, government always had, there is a problem in the government, and we know that story is too open also, because there are NGOs and NGOs. We all know that, you see. And there are INGOs and INGOs also, that we know. But then that is the given situation, you see. We can't do much about it. What we can do is to establish our credentials with the kind of work which we can do, with the kind of hand holding which we can do, with the kind of reaching out to the last person, the last mile connectivity, the last woman, which we can do. I think that is where we can really make a difference. As far as interface with the government, state government is concerned, well, I think over the years, thanks to organizations like Sphere, I think the gap has been bridged, definitely. But then it's a tough interface, if I may say that, And there are going to be challenges which we must keep in mind, because after all, there is nothing in life without any challenge. So that is also one of the challenge which Sphere and its partners have to keep in mind. But I think certain things are making difference, certain things will make difference. See, so now if we talk of, say, I'm not recounting on the last 20 years, because Professor Sharma and Prustiji, they have done. Let me do a little bit of thinking on what one sees is about to come. The government is also already talking of Amrit Kal, and the government is talking that 2047, when we complete 100 years of our independence, then Viksit Bharat, you see. And it is not just slogan. What they are talking is that by then, India will be third largest economy in the world. We are already at the fifth position, you see. And when we see this kind of scenario, it has got implications on what we are discussing also, you see. Because programs like Make in India, Startup India, Stand Up India, Direct Benefit Transfer, Skill India, I think they are all the ones which are making tremendous differences. You see, today, if we look at the status of women, and we are talking of women empowerment, and from women empowerment, we are moving to women led development, you see. So I think a lot of these initiatives which have been taken, they are making the difference. They are literally making the difference. And there are initiatives, say, in Bihar, like Jivika, in Kerala. On one side, I'm mentioning Bihar, on the other side, in Kerala, say Kudumbashri. I've had the opportunity of visiting them, meeting them, extensively touring areas to see their work, etc., etc. I think they are tremendously inspiring, you see. And I really wish that, we note these things so that we can interface, Sphere can interface with Jivika, Sphere can interface with Kudumbashri, and likewise, there are schemes in other states, and try to see in what way when we are talking capacity building, when we are talking skill building, because after all, if there are millions, and Kudum Shri membership is not in thousands, it is in millions. Jivika membership is not in thousands, it's in millions, you see. And they are the ones who responded in the time of COVID, and they are the ones who will respond in the time of drought, and they are the ones, those didis and those, now we are going to have, say, Lakpati didis and those schemes, etc. So these women, as Anganwadi workers or whatever, they have tremendous, they provide the connect. So we must connect with them because they provide the connect with the society. So that is my. So I think innovations is something which we have to keep track of. Second, communication is something which we have to keep track of because the means of communication has already changed beyond recognition. If I were to recall my days in, say, just about 40 years back or 20 years back, in the district, etc., I think there are changes which cannot be recognized. So I can see, and with artificial intelligence and many of these things coming, the ways of communication, the ways in which we relate with each others and the society at large, they are going to change. And therefore, I think organization like a Sphere, and I'm confident, but they have to keep track of what is happening in terms of communication. And using that, hand holding, I think it can become a big hand holding platform. And hand holding for whom? SDMAs, hand holding for DDMAs, hand holding for panchayats, hand holding for urban local bodies, you see, and local NGOs, you see. I think you are very large. You see, you are already very large, large enough to have 70 odd organizations. But if we can connect with these, I think that will be good. Then the next point which I want to make is, we have to also see what is the trend of disasters, you see, in what way the nature of disasters are changing. We had cyclones on the eastern coast, just to give one examples, but now we have equally strong cyclones on the western coast, you see. So things like these are perhaps happening in terms of all disasters, you see. And since that is our domain, so we need to keep track of that as to how that is. As far as say landslide is concerned, with all the development and the debate which is going on for the hilly areas, there is a dilemma between how much of development and at what cost, you see. And that is not going to stop because then development will stop, you see. It is in the interest of the people and the state to promote tourism, you see. And if you want to promote tourism, if you want to promote livelihood, if you want to improve the per capita income of the people out there, then it has its own implications, and those implications have their own risk, you see. Therefore, we have to be alive to what is happening, and then so that we are tuned and finally fine tuned to these. Then, as for technology, which I mentioned, social media. Now, say IMD. The IMD is a very, very important organization with which I think Sphere can. I do not know exactly in what way we interface, but IMD, because IMD is at the key, at the key point of response to many disasters, water related, other disasters, etc., etc. So they are and their presence is in all these states. You see, it is not just in Delhi; it's all these states, all the important organizations. You see. Then, as for the third thing, one is the nature of disasters and the trend of disasters. Second is technology in terms of social media, in terms of IMD, in terms of artificial intelligence and whatever else is coming up. Third is social changes, you see. When we are talking Viksit Bharat, then what are the implications of that? Then there are very important initiatives which have social implications like CDRI. That was a big lessons learned from Odisha super cyclone. That was a big lessons learned from other disasters which have been happening. That we have reduced the human loss, but we have not been able to reduce the economic losses, you see. So we came up with CDRI. And I really wish and hope that, I'm sure they are doing very good work. And that is also an area of when we are talking of right in the beginning, I mentioned Sphere as, a partner to resilient development. Then you see that is very important. International Solar Alliance, you see. It's in Gurgaon, and it's a global initiative. And we are talking of now solar in a big way, hydrogen as a source of energy in a big way. So I think Sphere again needs to take note of these kinds of development, because they are going to have implications either on say disasters or on the way you respond, the way you recover, the way you rehabilitate, the way of reconstruction, etc., etc. And then, of course, I'm just mentioning in passing Global Biofuel Alliance, you see, which was announced recently. Then what I can see is that energy sector is going to see tremendous changes and tremendous reforms. You see, you know, government is putting its best in terms of energy sector, because that also has implications for climate change. You see, the more clean energy we have, etc., etc., and therefore hydrogen, and therefore nuclear, whatever. I think so. That is also a very important area to keep track of. Transport sector is again going to, as a result of that, and they are interlinked. So that is also going to see tremendous change. And hydrogen as a fuel, I have already mentioned. Then one thing which I want to mention, which also figures in Prime Minister 10-point agenda, and I do not know how far it has been addressed by our group. I mean the sphere and the networks. You see, is the field of higher education. You see. Now the colleges and universities, including foreign universities, already foreign universities are setting up their campuses. You know, they are coming, and one of the agenda, as you all know better than me, is focus on this higher institutions of higher learning. I think that is somehow or the other they have been lacking till now. So that is one area where we should be able to connect. It's good to connect at the grassroots level. It's good to connect. I have already pointed out, you know, because you become strong when you are working at the grassroots level, but you also become strong, and you get, when at the higher education level you are able to be a part of the change, technological change, thought changes, other changes which are taking place, in the world. So I think that is also very, very important. I'm not going into the hows and whys of that, but I'm just highlighting. And the last, which Prustiji mentioned, is corporates, you see. Corporates, despite these 20 years, and I'm sure it will be good to reflect on that and maybe have a special meeting with some corporates, you see, pick up, say 20 corporates or 50 corporates also, and have a meeting with them as to where do they stand. Firstly, in terms of their own preparedness and planning, their own BCPs and BCMs, etc., you see. But then more than that, what is their role in terms of, providing for their hinterland, you see. And that is what is happening in Japan. They not only cater for their own, but they also work for, they come out with products. One is, like super cyclone, or in Bhuj, you know, petroleum industry, cement industry, salt industry, handicrafts industry, all these things suffered. So we can also find out the figures for cyclone, So it is very, very important. One is that they cater to their own survival. And secondly, how do they relate to the community around them in terms of their products and the resilience of the products, which then helps the people, to change their lives and make it more resilient, community lives in terms of how they make their houses, their living, various aspects of living, etc., etc., and whether it is schooling and whether it is health facilities. I think these corporates again have implications, you see, for every sector, every basic fundamental sector of our lives, you see. So I think I'll stop here. And once again, thanks to Sphere, thanks to Nupur, thanks to Vikrant, and thanks once again, and my respects to Prastiji and Sharmaji for tremendous. I've really learned. I didn't know a word of disaster management, even though I had started my career with floods. But still, as a discipline, I never got to learn till I met these stalwarts and the institutions in which they were working, you see. So thank you very much once again. And I'm very happy to interact with all of you. I hope some of my ideas will be useful to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And also, thank you for sharing your ideas. I think you started your points by saying that we need to adapt to the changing context and emerging challenges. And I think most of the points that you mentioned, they are reflective of that need. So these are definitely good ideas that we'll be considering in terms of finalizing our strategy going forward. And I would especially like to acknowledge one point on capacity building at grassroots level. प्रमोद जी ने भी आपने देखा होगा चैट में कमेंट किया कि विलेज लेवल पे जो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट कमेटी है सिंस वो एक बहुत ही ग्राउंड लेवल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से आते हैं तो ही इज कमिंग विद दैट पर्सपेक्टिव कि विलेज लेवल पे कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग की क्या नीड्स हैं एंड ऑफ कोर्स linking it with the higher education that those things should be there in parallel. So thank you so much for sharing that, sir. And going forward, I just like to make a note of a time to the upcoming speakers since we have 5 more speakers to go. Maybe I'll go right into the next speaker. So, Prushti sir also shared about how interagency groups constitute a vital component of the Sphere India network and they serve as a cornerstone of collaborative efforts in disaster management and resilience building at state as well as now local and district level. So we have our next speaker, Mr. Subir Kumar, who is also the convener of interagency group in Jharkhand, and he'll be sharing his insights on promoting interagency coordination. And so we would also like you to reflect on your experience of being associated with Sphere India and how we can synergize our efforts with for interagency coordination at state and district level. Over to you, sir. Subir sir, if you can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Nupur. I'm audible, I believe.
Yes, sir.
I think firstly, I would like to acknowledge Mr. Sharma, Prusti sir, and Sinha sir. In my experience in relief and disaster management operations, I think I am with them since last 30 years. और मैं शुरू से ही वीके शर्मा सर का स्टूडेंट रहा हूँ ड्यूरिंग हिज he was there in IIPA or NCDM ka they were chairing it. So I know him since his time when he used to teach us. और उस समय से my passion started growing. उसके बाद I was with Care India for quite some time and Prusti sir के leadership में I have been working in care and further when I was with government that learning in what I have acquired during flood relief operation, earthquake, and all those things has given me a strength and my passion came up that way. और अभी मैं I am working with as a consultant to many department, livelihood mission, even health and disaster management department. ये जरूर है कि झारखंड में disaster management की स्थिति people knows that how system is working. लेकिन what with the fair guidance and their leadership हम लोगों ने nearly 10 years I have completed with Sphere India as a convener and without any support of any agencies I really tried to coordinate with lot of international agencies, UNICEF, Save the Children, all the development partners, those who were working in Jharkhand, Care India including. My topic would be like importance how IAG interagency coordination can improve and few things I would like to add which in Jharkhand we have taken it up with the network agencies. Whatever we have heard from all three speakers जो already जो स्फेयर इंडिया का लर्निंग एंड सर सिन्हा सर का जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव लर्निंग्स he has shared with that we understand the limitations of government as well as limitations of agencies and community even. तो मेरा फर्स्ट जो 21 एजेंडा के लिए वॉट एवर सर हैज सेड, मेरा तो अपने तरफ से सोचना है कि यस, डेफिनेशन हैज टू बी रीडिफाइंड फॉर द कम्युनिटी एज वेल, बिकॉज अभी भी डिजास्टर मतलब लोग चाहे तो अर्थक्वेक समझते हैं, चाहे तो फ्लड समझते हैं, तो वी रियली वर्क ऑन डेफिनेशन पार्ट. अगर डेफिनेशन अगर क्लैरिटी है तो we may influence different local government as well as policy makers as well to plan their activity accordingly. Uh, to organize up to community level, so far within last 6 months, we have defined the role of IAG in Jharkhand. कैसे हम लोग गवर्नमेंट और एनजीओ कोऑर्डिनेशन को, हाउ वी कैन improve it, those things we have taken it up with the respective nodal agency. We have structured our agency like district nodal agency. We are making them as a district nodal agency to down the line वो अपने कम्युनिटी लेवल तक जाने के लिए, चाहे वो सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप हो और डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल में जो एरिया एक्सपर्टाइज एनजीओ जो हो गए हैं लाइवलीहुड मिशन से हो, टू बिल्ड देयर कैपेसिटी. तो वी हैव कम अप विद द स्ट्रेटजी हाउ टू involve and evolve the system so that every district can have their own stake and linkage with the government agency. तो ये एक प्रयास है जिसमें 5 जिला स्पेशली पलामू एरिया में हम लोग कर रहे हैं. पीपल नोज दैट challenges in Palamu division is a different. वहाँ ड्रॉट का है, इवन माल न्यूट्रिशन इश्यूज है, कहीं कहीं फ्लैश का है, थंडरिंग है, फिर एनिमल रिलेटेड डिजास्टर्स थंडरिंग के चलते बहुत है. मतलब वैरायटी ऑफ चैलेंजेस आर देयर विद द डिफरेंट लाइन डिपार्टमेंट एज वेल. तो उन लोगों के साथ मिलकर के हम लोगों ने कुछ वर्क प्लान बनाया है कि हाउ बेस्ट वी कैन यूज द रिस्पेक्टिव एजेंसीज एंड एक्सपर्टाइज जो उन लोगों के पास है. यूनिसेफ सपोर्टेड कुछ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस है, और जो लाइवलीहुड में बहुत सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, रूरल डेवलपमेंट डिपार्टमेंट है, तो वी आर ट्राइंग टू इंटीग्रेट देयर इनपुट इन द प्रोसेस. तो एक प्रयास है. और किस तरह से हम अपने नेटवर्क को स्ट्रेंथन करें, वी आर थिंकिंग ऑफ बाय 3 months of this coming 3 months we can institutionalize the process up to district level so that down the line हम अगले 6 महीना में करके करें. And we have targeted nearly 250 organizations to build their capacity through IAG network and mobilize resources through corporate and NGOs like UNICEF, funding agency like UNICEF and other, they have agreed to that. ये एक स्ट्रक्चर लेवल पे हम लोगों ने कोऑर्डिनेशन को इम्प्रूव करने के लिए किया है. और ये सब लर्निंग बेसिकली इट केम व्हेन वी वर इन्वॉल्व इन कोरोना ट्रेनिंग प्रोसेस. सो बहुत सारे ऐसे लर्निंग्स हुए हैं जिसमें ऑर्गेनाइजेशन दे देमसेल्फ केम अप एंड सेड कि नहीं, हमको आपदा प्रबंधन में चाहे कोरोना में करना. तो वी आर आइडेंटिफाइंग सच ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस. Even there are few mission hospitals and also they are also there in the process to support us in the process of managing disaster. एक तो ये स्ट्रक्चर लेवल पे झारखंड में हम लोग कुछ करना चाह रहे हैं. और फिर रिसोर्स मोबिलाइजेशन में भी हम लोग व्हाट एनजीओ हैज सजेस्टेड कि हम लोगों को काम करना चाहिए कि लाइक थ्रू जो भी एजेंसीज है उनके लिए प्रपोजल डेवलपमेंट कर करके रिसोर्स मोबिलाइजेशन करने के लिए देयर आर एजेंसीज केम अप विद सेइंग दैट कि हाँ भाई हम लोग एजुकेशन में हमको काम करना है. तो स्कूल सेफ्टी के लिए ऑन फर्स्ट देयर वी आर हैविंग अ स्ट्रेटजी मीटिंग विद यूनिसेफ ऑन दैट. जितने भी एनजीओज हैं उनको किस तरह से, बिकॉज वी डू नॉट हैव सच रिसोर्सेज, सो वी आर ट्राइंग टू मोबिलाइज other resource funding to manage and strengthen our structure as well. एक तो है. फिर वर्ल्ड विजन इंडिया और सेव द चिल्ड्रन के द्वारा भी कुछ एक्टिविटी अर्बन में शुरू किया गया था. वो भी वी आर ऑल्सो ट्राइंग टू इन्वॉल्व देम इन द अर्बन डिजास्टर में. कैसे उनके जो कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग हुए थे उन लोगों को पुल इन करके वी आर थिंकिंग टू इन्वॉल्व देम इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ मिटिगेटिंग और एनी चैलेंजेस for that. Few institutions like XISS and Raksha Sakti University, as well as Vinoba Bhave University, we met them. They said to document certain things of best practices as well as integration of courses in their process. So they are also ready to support us to come up with any recommendation that ये course student के लिए चाहे anthropologist के लिए ट्राइबल एरिया में काम आएगा कि हाउ बेस्ट वी कैन एडवोकेट एट द वेरियस लेवल थ्रू दिस लर्निंग. तो ये एक एक्टिविटी इन झारखंड वी हैव इनिशिएटेड and XISS has called us for a partnership to take up certain internship program for them, and we have done 5 to 6 internship program for them with our network, so that people can talk about disaster management and any other further issues related to that. तो झारखंड में इंटर एजेंसी कोऑर्डिनेशन के लिए हम लोग एनजीओज के साथ कर रहे हैं, फील्ड बेस्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के साथ बात कर रहे हैं, एंड ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट अ स्ट्रक्चर वेयर एवरीबडी इज इन्वॉल्व इन वन प्रोसेस. सो विथ लिमिटेड वर्ड्स आई वुड से कि हाँ, हम लोगों का प्रयास शुरू है, एंड फ्यू थिंग्स जो हम लोगों को 21 एजेंडा में वी शुड टॉक अबाउट, लाइक वी शुड ऑलवेज राइट फॉर कन्वर्जेंस एक्शन फ्रॉम द सेंट्रल लेवल, कि किस तरह से प्रोग्राम इंटीग्रेशन एट द डिपार्टमेंट लेवल वी शुड डू इट, their guideline, because every government department is having their own convergent action plan, whereas nobody could able to sit together with all bureaucratic reason or political reason. We do not know much on that, but एक हम लोग का ये भी एक गाइडलाइन पे कर पाए कि किस तरह से कम्युनिटी लेवल पे कन्वर्जेंट एक्शन के लिए हमारे पास मुद्दा हो, अप्रोच हो एंड गाइडलाइन हो. दिस विल हेल्प अस इन इंटीग्रेटिंग कम्युनिटी लेवल पे हम काम कर सकते हैं. आई एम रियली थैंकफुल टू ऑल 3 बिग स्पीकर्स, जो हम जिन लोगों से हमने सीखा है, एंड स्फेयर इंडिया. I am glad that I am with Sphere India for so long, and I am still learning how best we can support the mission vision of the entire team. कैसे हम इस मुद्दे को हम लोग मेन स्ट्रीम कर पाए with the respective department, so that जो विकसित भारत का जो कल्पना है अपने प्रधानमंत्री का, we can do it by that time. Thank you very much, Nupur, giving me a time to share my experience. Though still I am learning process, I'm in learning process, and I'm sure that I'm that young that I can take it further with the passion and getting more and more knowledge through you all, the entire team. Thank you very much, Nupur.
And thank you so much, Subir sir, and thank you for sharing your insights and experiences from Jharkhand. I think with different state interagency groups, the experiences and the way of working is very dynamic, and we also see it as an opportunity for cross-learning between the IAGs. So that is something we try to facilitate, and we'll continue to do so, so that we can look at models in different states and kind of learn and grow with each other. So thank you so much for sharing that, sir. So now that we've talked about state level interagency group, I'd like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Aniruddha De, who's chairperson of Professional Institute for Development and Social Environment Management, who will be shedding light on the critical role of local and grassroots stakeholders in humanitarian efforts. Anirudh sir, requesting you to share about your experiences in promoting localization in action, and also insights into the significant humanitarian impact that can be achieved through the grassroots and community-led approaches. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nupur. I have already shared my presentation to you.
Yes, I can quickly flash that. Maybe just
you can flash it. And just another thing is that first I would like to say that 21st February, it is the 21st anniversary of Sphere India also, and this 21st February is the Mother Language Day, Mother Tongue Day, international. It has been accepted, and I would like to thank all the martyrs for the mother tongue they have fought for. So mainly those who are in Bangladesh. So to all of them, I would like to convey my thanks and my regards. And this is actually, I am very much thankful to Vikrant for getting involved into Vikrant. And there was another person called Manovendranath Rai. He was there at that time. He was there in Save the Children, and to both of them, because they really said that this state intelligence group is your platform. So if you leave the platform, you will lose the game. So you become a member of the platform. So that's fine. And since 2008, my involvement, because I have been working since 2000, but since 2008, my involvement in state intelligence group was more active. So, however, I am a self-learned person, and this is our experience in what we call that you don't never preach if you don't practice. So we practice and preach. So localization is a concept that is I will talk about it, and my perspectives will be reflected. But before that, I would like to thank Sphere India Academy for giving us an opportunity to experiment the localization aspects. So it was basically a sensitization, and then in 12 sessions, more than 1,000 people, they have participated, and based on their suggestions, we are from Climate Action Resource Network Asia Pacific. We have been organizing 30 members handholding training, which will take place from 12th to 16th of March this year. And that is the empowerment of the local communities, the capacity building of the local communities. So now coming to what I understood about localization. So the next first slide, this is localization is frequently part of larger globalization. So we need to understand what is what has been talked about. So this is, we are talking about localization. So localization is not a new thing. Localization was there since before. And if you try to understand that fertilizer companies, pesticides companies, they are not approaching the urban communities because they know that urban communities are not the producers. So they are approaching the farmers, and to approach the farmers, they have to talk, they have to think about translation, they have to think about internalization, they have to think about globalization. And this is, in total, this is commonly referred as GILT, globalization, internalization, internationalization, localization, and translation. So for any business that is trying to enter a global market, localization is key in helping them reach and attract a global audience. So this is this was there before, and if you see the after 1990, the globalization thing happened, the trips and all these things. We have get contract and all these things we have learned about. So if we consider all these things, then we'll see that how localization started taking place. So next slide, please. No, this was the first one. Yeah. So this is I don't want to take much time in explaining all these things, because I have already said that globalization, internalization, localization, translation, these are the 4 pillars. So and based on those pillars, actually, localization started taking place, and it is in all sectors. It is not only in the humanitarian sector, but localization in humanitarian sector is different. So next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So people affected by crisis must be at the center of decision and humanitarian protection. So assistance, recovery, and resilience. Right to life. This is actually, I'm giving a reference from the um, uh, Introduction to Sphere Standards, Enhancing Quality of Disaster Response, that was spoken by Mr. Subhashish Roy on 31st January 2024, by organized by the Sphere India Academy. So he told that right to life with dignity, the right to receive humanitarian assistance, and the right to protection and security. So my point is that Sphere is the most established and recognized organization in the fields of humanitarian quality and accountability. All humanitarian standards partnership, so what we call as HSPs, are based on international legal instruments relating to human rights, refugees, and humanitarian actions. Each standard is an expression of human rights, defining a minimum condition for life with dignity. So my point is that right to live with dignity. So this is something was very much emphasized in Sphere Handbook, and which was there since 1997. So after 2026, when this concept of localization was promoted, so why do we need to accept it? Because it is not because it was globally accepted. It is so we can. So I am in my last slide. I'll share that about my recommendations. What I feel that sphere standards can be strengthened, can be emphasized upon. Okay, next slide. So my point is that the World Humanitarian Summit 2016 was the landmark event that launched a renewed thrust on localization. As of 2016, the humanitarian sector was spending, so this is something like 25 billion US dollars to provide life-saving assistance to 125 million people devastated by wars and natural hazards. So I have given the reference also, and needed an estimated 15 billion US dollars more for humanitarian action to meet the needs of fast growing numbers of people affected by years of crisis. However, the funding mechanism was not a sustainable one. Preceding the summit, the high-level panel on humanitarian financing report had set localization as a corner piece of three innovative goals. What are the three innovative goals? To reduce the need for humanitarian assistance by preventing and resolving conflicts, and also to increase investment in disaster risk reduction, especially in the most vulnerable communities and countries. To deepen and broaden the resource base for humanitarian action by mobilizing additional funds through their traditional or innovative mechanisms, and to improve the efficiency of humanitarian and delivery through increased flexibility, greater transparency, and cost consciousness, providing more cash-based assistance where appropriate, and recognizing the comparative advantages of local, national, and international implementing organizations for delivery of services. Next slide, please. Nupur, next slide, please. So these are some of these in practice. We have seen that to establish the partnership concept, some international agencies are inviting local actors into key meetings, which are not enough to translate into a shift of leadership. So this is I have seen this was in practice after 2010. So just to strengthen, just to show that how we are practicing the partnership approach, but the financial partnership was not there, was absent. Considering the invitation extended to local actors to participate in key meetings, though they often pass off as good intentions, these meetings are often not designed and designed with the participation experience of local actors in mind. Other times, the meetings can get too patronizing, sometimes merely amplifying the visibility that benefits international NGOs. Often, local actors still lack the agency. No, please. Yeah. Often, local actors still lack the agency to contribute substantially to those meetings, much less the chances to lead localization through them. The local actors do participate and talk on the issues they were taught mostly, and for the rest of the program, they cannot understand as the program was conducted in a foreign language. This is from my experience. I have shared all these things. When they go back to their community, they become isolated as the others are jealous because of their stay in a 5-star accommodation and food. Thank you. Next. Yeah. So these are some of the definitions, like in most of the definitions, you will see that the financial issues were considered. So these definitions, I'm not going to elaborate much. So these are some of the definitions on localization, on humanitarian issues, humanitarian impact. So next. So this is something I would like to say that based on my readings and interactions, I believe that mostly we are talking about capacity building and empowering the local communities. However, there are problems as the attitudes of most of the powerful sections, powerful in the sense I would like to say that those who have money, and for those who we are giving money. So those who have money are the powerful sector. So you have to say, sir, until you get the money, and at the till the end, you have to just run after them. So they are the powerful section. Those who are holding funds will not change even by given mandates. So it is very difficult. There are legal compliance issues which are not so easy to dilute. Like in India, many people know that FCRA issues and how these are actually working. So there are national agencies thinking of project funding and look at localization as another funding opportunity. So I have seen it, I have experienced it, that not in India, I have seen that when Star Fund, they announced this localization fund, so many people have started applying. So it is common in Bangladesh, common in Nepal, common in India. So in all the countries I know, so I have seen this type of things, like localization as another funding opportunity they saw. We need to find out solutions, and those are already spelled out in sphere standards. So it is nothing new to us. So those who are practicing sphere standards, we know that right to life with dignity, this is enough, more than enough from what we are talking about localization. So even without the localization concept emphasized after 2016, people or agencies following the sphere standards were working with the local communities with a right to life with dignity concept. I also feel that people or agencies should internalize the concept of benefit sharing mechanism. So this is very important, because we are not actually thinking of any benefit sharing mechanism with the local communities, though we say that these local communities are the important pillars for any crisis or any emergency or anything, so that we need to empower them, we need to develop their capacities. So who are we to develop their capacities, and who are we to design how to develop their capacities and how to empower them? So why don't we be silent and listen to them, the local communities, with giving them some this thing, some kind of respect, showing some kind of respect to their words. So that culture has not been developed. By calling the local people beneficiaries, I don't think localization will take place in true spirit, as neither the international agencies nor their agents are giving any benefits to the victims. Instead, we need to use the term project partner. So we are not making them partner, just saying in the preamble that this is the partnership approach. But that partnership is not in true sense partnership. And this thing is that we are calling them beneficiaries. By giving a mosquito net, they cannot be our beneficiaries. So I don't believe in those things. So it's important for the people or agencies to understand the importance of translation in their own language. This is actually, let me come to the next point. Let us ask ourselves that since 2005, when the DM Act was published in India, since then, how we have progressed in the sector and where are the communities? So this is important because 2005 is the landmark I have taken in this presentation. So my point is that let us see that since 2005, what all we have done. We have lots of academic institutions, we have lots of research papers, we have lots of articles on disaster management. So everything is done, but things are in English. And what about the communities? Communities were worse than before, because disaster is not a new thing for them. So they have their coping strategies. We didn't want to learn what their coping strategies are, how they are coping. And we are trying to just make them dependent by giving them dole. So I think the latest version of the Sphere Handbook should include a separate chapter emphasizing the localization thing. This basically the right to live with dignity concept. So emphasize much on this, and we don't need to just follow what is the way localization has been promoted worldwide as a old wine in a new bottle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anirudh sir. I think you've shared very practical insights on what localization really means and how it can be further scaled up or adapted across the physical humanitarian system in India. So thank you for sharing these insights and some of the challenges that you mentioned. We're also addressing that, especially in terms of governance and strengthening capacities of CSOs in our next session. So thank you so much for joining us today and being part of our journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're most welcome. Yeah. Thank you.